Hello, friends. Welcome to Six Shooters and Bad Magic, our Weird West lore stream. I'm Weird West's community manager, and I will be your host for today's stream. My name is Alex. Thank you all so much for joining us. So, a little breakdown of what's going to be happening today. We are going to be chatting for about 40 minutes. Then we're going to have a quick break. Then we're going to have a Q&A. So please submit your questions in the chat. But a little reminder, this stream is with the writers, not the game designers. So our focus today will be on the lore and narrative elements of the game. And without further ado, let me introduce our writers and narrative designers. So please say hello to Erin. Hello. Erin has been writing in one form or another since she learned to properly hold a pencil and now has several years of experience in the game writing sphere for everything from character bios to combat barks. And let me say hello to Lucas. Hello, Lucas.
Hey, everybody.
Lucas's work in prose has been featured in Best American Short Stories and Best American Travel Writing, and he holds an MFA in Fiction and Poetry from the Michener Center for Writers. He recently gave talks at the DevCon Developer Conference and the Austin Film Festival on writing for immersive sims. Hello, friends. Welcome.
Hey.
Hello.
Thanks for hosting us.
You're welcome. You're more than welcome.
We're so excited.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before we start talking more about the Weird West, we are going to play for you now our journey trailer. So please enjoy.
West's full of tall tales, strangeness, oddity, evil. But the West, it's also got heroes of a kind. A bounty hunter thought she could hang up her shooting irons for good. Thought wrong. Pigman, cursed, a monster in the eyes of his fellow man, but a monster with a past. His land's got guardians, come west tracking an evil wind across the plains. Liable to find it. He's got cowboys, drunk on the moon, trapped in a war for the heart of the West. He's got future seers, set to change what's coming before the sun sets. You see, you five, you're tied together. A purpose deeper than you know. The more you dig, the stranger it gets. West.
Hello, welcome back. So, you can be a hero, a scoundrel, and anything in between, if you can survive, that is. This ain't quite the Wild West as you know it. There are ancient powers at war with each other, strange entities in the dead of night, each with their own rules and peculiar ways. There are rewards waiting for those willing to unveil its mysteries, but opportunity comes at a high price. Welcome to the Weird West. This is our Six Shooters and Bad Magic lore stream. So, Weird West, it's a dark fantasy reimagining of a Wild West where lawmen and gunslingers share the frontier with fantastical creatures. So I thought we could kick off by talking about Weird Westerns. They're a really rich genre. So could you talk a bit more about how you tackled this theme?
Yeah, definitely. Erin, do you want to start with this one?
So one of the first things that we were looking at as we were digging in here is we're starting with this foundation of the Western, the film Westerns or novels, just the structures and tropes of those stories, things like the Man in Black, the Hunt, the Pursuit, and adding a supernatural element to them, just sort of weaving it all together until it's one world, because they do work really quite well together. One of the important things about the Western as a genre, I think, is this idea of the unknown and man versus nature, and it's very, very fluid and easy to bring supernatural elements into that idea.
Definitely. The whole world is very, very rough and tumble. And I don't know about you, Erin. I know I just have these memories of being at the library just with stacks of books on like Texan folklore, werewolves. The people who worked at the library thought I was a crazy person. They're like, what are you planning on? Occult rituals, all sorts of weird stuff. But it does go well together. Blood and dirt and magic and transformations. It's like it somehow fits.
The line between, hunting down the man in black who killed your family and there being some kind of curse or ghost stories involved. It's such a lovely mesh you can bring them together into.
Nice. So let's go on to talk about the mystery of the 5 entwined journeys. So you will discover the world of the Weird West through the origin stories of 5 unique characters that you can see now on screen. And you'll be moving from one to the next until they all converge into a final chapter. We won't be talking about all the characters today, but we have shared that the first journey will be the bounty hunter, Jane Bell. But can we also just talk a bit about what were the challenges of bringing these different characters together?
Yeah, definitely. They were myriad and difficult. But also I think it was one of the biggest challenges, but one of the most fun and interesting challenges too, because I mean, y'all just saw the image of all 5 of the heroes together. They are not very similar. I don't know if you could tell. We got a gunslinger, and we got someone who's a pig, and then we got a werewolf. The characters were all really, really, really different, and but we knew, and we talked with Raph, the director of the game, and the level designers when Erin and I were brought onto the project. We talked about how we wanted there to be a thread, a sort of a thematic and or plot thread that connects all 5 of these characters together. So in our discussions with Raph, the director of the game, and between ourselves and with the level designers, we came up with some really strong, interesting threads that shall not be revealed on this stream because that's the juiciest bits. But I think the challenge was how do you have the player play 5 different characters, all of whom are very different, and have it still feel like a satisfying, continuous experience? Because one of the things we were worried about is you spend all this time as Jane Bell, the bounty hunter, and you gain abilities, and the story progresses, and you make choices, and then you start the Pigman journey, and the question of would the player want to start playing another story. And I think and hope that as a team, we figured out how to bring enough connecting threads to make it feel like it really is one continuous story that you're playing, and that you're sort of piecing together how all of these things, how this mystery comes together as you're playing through all 5 of them.
Yeah, and you're definitely not abandoning each character as you move on to the next part of the journey. You can actually
say.
I think we have revealed that you can recruit former heroes as companions to your posse. So once you've finished building up one character, you can then recruit them and journey together with them. So building up your perks and abilities with that character will only continue to benefit you as time goes on, and they will continue to unlock more parts of their story.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
It is pretty cool.
It is cool. It's you can make Jane Bell the most badass bounty hunter of all time, and then
some pictures of Jane, please. Let's go through.
Look at Jane.
Jane.
Oof.
Come on, Jane.
She's amazing. I hope someone cosplays as Jane because she's just too cool. You can spend hours and hours making her the most badass bounty hunter of all time. And then later in the game, when you're playing as other characters, you can go find her. Go find Jane, see what she's up to, recruit her into your posse. You could have her with you if you play your cards right the entire game. So we reward that kind of, for the players who are curious about how the 5 characters connect to each other. We reward the players who go poking around and exploring to see what's there for them.
Right. And the characters are curious about that too, because there is a connection between them. And they would also like to know what it is.
It is very mysterious.
It is extremely mysterious.
Very mysterious stream, friends. We get to the next slide. I just want to show I love Jane just being an absolute sharpshooter.
Look at her go.
Go, Jane, go.
Fastest draw in the West. That's her. Glass bottles and monsters alike.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I thought next, let's start talking about the world. There's a really rich world that you've created. And, there's, I think some of the things we're going to talk about are the factions, monsters, technology. We might touch on religion. So let's talk a bit about the factions. If you could share some of those people in the world.
Sure thing. So one of the first things that we start from as a foundation when we're building a world like this is we have this concept point. We know what we want the world to generally look like. And then we start looking at, so what are the implications of each detail in the world? We start extrapolating. So if this is a world full of monsters and magic, how do ordinary people respond? Because they still have to live. They still have to make lives for themselves. So you end up with factions like the Dagger and Bones, for example, are a trapping company that have branched out into a major expertise in hunting monsters as well as furs. So if you end up having like a monster infestation in your town, you can call up the Dagger and Bones, and they can help you out with that. Or you might see something like the Absolutionists, who are the major faith community in the Weird West, because people want a higher power to turn to. They want community. They want to take care of each other in a dangerous world. And so starting from that initial point, you can extrapolate all kinds of interesting things because humans will just react to things in the most fascinating ways. It's very fun.
Yeah,
Was there a particular faction that you wanted to talk about more specifically?
I thought we could talk a bit about the still waters. I think this is Stillwater.
Oh, you see them here. They're nasty.
They're nasty.
Bad.
Just like some humans will crave community and they want to take care of each other. Some humans are just out for themselves, just out for advantage. And I think that's true in most civilizations in history. So just as there are folks who are helping each other, there are also folks who are taking advantage. And the Stillwaters are one such group. They are some of the most feared outlaws in the West. So
they're terrifying, and they do not. The people who they team up with, anyone who's around a Stillwater is going to be a nasty person, and they might not even be a person. They might be something even scarier than that. I want to also just say, hats off to Erin, who really is the master of all lore. And as we were working in development, for me at least, I don't know about for you, Erin, I won't speak for you, but one of the things I enjoyed most was Raph sending me a message saying, well, if pigmen are such and such, then wouldn't that mean if they interacted with this thing later on in the game, wouldn't there be an interesting cross-pollination there? And you'd be like, oh yeah. Or Julian, our executive producer, he was great about noticing something that happens in Journey 1, a faction that plays a heavy role in Journey 1, and then somewhere down the line there are these sort of like organic cross-pollinations that happen where you think, oh well, if Pigman exists in this world and also magic exists in this world, then that means there's going to some interesting sort of explosive friction is going to happen between them. And so as much as possible, I think we all tried to notice frictions that were sort of already there for the exploiting for us, and then tried to sort of dig into those when we saw the opportunity.
Yeah. One of the fun things about the overarching story is that you might, in one journey, be working with one organization, and then in another journey working with their enemies. You might be finding factions and building relationships that are at odds with each other. And so you're seeing the Weird West from a number of different perspectives, and how you choose to interact with each faction is very, very impactful. And that is all.
Y'all.
Yes.
Yes, y'all.
And props to Lucas for that, because he was the architect of the main story branching. So he
Well, and I mean, I
got
did
the
what I
goods.
could, and also, we're very, very, very lucky to be working with the level designers that we have. I mean, so much of the amazing, cool. I know we're going to talk about branching and choices later, but
Yeah.
all of this game is so complex that there's no way that I or anyone else could hold it all in their head at once. And hats off to all of our level designers too. I remember having lots of conversations with Joachim about some of the later journeys that Erin was sort of alluding to, and really like pushing some of these frictions and animosities and switches in perspective as much as we could.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, it takes more than one person to figure all that stuff out, because it is hard.
Yeah, ideally, we have built a game where just one playthrough, you'll get the story, but you might be curious as to what happens if you try something different. So we're hoping that you'll get a lot of joy out of going back through and trying something new each time.
Yes. Yeah, we mentioned story branching, but that was what I wanted to talk about next. And these different story elements, and there's kind of this, really interesting replay value. But what I wanted to ask was, what were the challenges working on all these different branching story elements?
Oh man. What were the challenges except for all of the challenges? Yeah. Well, I mean, as I was saying earlier, I know I feel very lucky, and I know Erin does too, to work with the level designers we work with, because they've been in games for 20 plus years and, have all the accolades you could possibly have in level design. And when it comes to all the branching, I mean, it was extremely difficult for us, and we hope will be extremely exciting for y'all. Because I think the reason why it was so difficult was just because there are so many moments when the player can make a choice that irrevocably changes the way the story is going to play out. And we really, I don't want to get too, I know we're going to talk more about choices later, but trying to hold in our heads every permutation that was possible was really, really hard. I mean, Erin, I know I've played the game for some hundreds of hours. You've played it for a long time. Everyone on the team has played it so much, and we are still finding new permutations every time. Every time I play the game, it's different, even now.
Absolutely, and trying to account for all of those possibilities it's very much like trying to frantically lay out the track as the train is rushing along. But it's like,
and there are like
100 trains at
100 trains. Yes. You just have a little bit of rail, and it's nighttime. There's a storm.
We always have to have someone on chaos player duty who's thinking, okay, what if the player does the exact opposite of what we want them to do? How does the game respond to that?
I hope that some of y'all really play the what we call internally the trash gremlin route, where you just do the worst stuff you can possibly think to our game, where you try to break it as much as possible and see what happens. Because I mean, that's one of the things we really put a lot of effort into, is for the players who want to stretch the boundaries of the story and really try to mess with it, do things out of order, go straight to the end from the beginning. We want to provide that player with an exciting experience too, and we've done our best. We've done our level best.
Yeah. Raph in particular is such a strong advocate for that sort of thing, for just letting the player interact with the world in all of the ways that it would be possible to interact with the world. And so there are a lot of possibilities in the game that, level designers or us as writers might have hesitated to include, but Raph was the one in there with the hammer.
Definitely.
No, we have to let them do this.
Yes, very grateful to Raph for that. In the end, even though all of us felt the painfulness in the moment, he was like, trust me, we got to do it this way. And he's right. I mean, one of the things that we do here at Wolfeye, in the sort of tradition of the immersive sim, is when we tell you can do something, we let you do that thing, and we don't, there aren't any qualifications. if we say, I know we're going to talk about this later, but if we say, here's a gun, you're a cowboy, you can shoot whatever you want, we mean that. And it doesn't really matter who, even if it's the most important story character, you can just go and shoot that person, and we're going to make sure that you have a good experience, and that you feel supported to the best of our ability.
So I thought now let's just have a quick chat about some of the locations in Weird West.
Yes.
I feel like, you'd think this is really a world of terror, but it is a living world. People actually live, in areas in the Weird West. People have adapted. So you might have seen on socials, but we shared Grackle, which is a town. But could you tell us about maybe some of the other locations you'd see in a Weird Western, and maybe some of the ones you wouldn't?
Right. So the first thing that we set out to think about when we were building a lot of these locations was, what do people need? They need food, they need water, they need shelter, but they also need to have fun, and they need to survive in the Weird West. So you might find places like Cedar Flats, which is a central location of the wine trade in the Weird West. And it's known for, saloons, pleasure houses, people just having a good time. Because sometimes when you're surrounded by monsters and you just lost your whole crop to a cursed plague or something like that, you just need to drown your sorrows a little bit. So Cedar Flats is the place to go for that.
We got a fine red wine, so I hear.
Exactly. But there's also mines, there's farms scattered across the map. People dragging a living out of the dirt. There's trappers, there's hunters, there's merchants that travel on the roads. There's all kinds of just people out in this world. But you'll also run into the places where people tried to build a life and something interfered. So you might run into a ghost town, and it might be abandoned. It might be totally empty, but something else might have moved in the meantime.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, look at that screenshot. Nasty. Love it.
Yeah. We go to the next one. We got some great ones of kind of getting a bit weird.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's an abandoned town that's been overrun with one of our really disgusting, terrifying enemies called Ridgebacks in the game.
Yes.
I also just want to, can we give a quick shout out to Etienne and Manu and the other people on our team, Julie and Mario. I mean, these locations are gorgeous. Yes. Oh, man. I mean, really, really amazing. There was a few slides back. I don't know if y'all caught the UI of the travel map. I mean, our UI designer, Julie and Mario, really went above and beyond. It's absolutely gorgeous.
It's an incredible job.
Yeah. And I mean, all of it's funny because Erin and I think, have pretty sunny dispositions usually. And, I don't know about you, Erin, but when I talk to people about what I do, I'm like, yeah, I write about werewolves and magic and killing people and guts and stuff. They're like, what, really? And all these locations, really, that the dark edge, the strangeness. I was going to say the oddity. I'm sorry, the trailer is in my head too much. It's really there, and I think one of the things I really love about the location work that our artists and our level designers did is there are these really wonderful layers too. Like you can see here, there's, this was a town. What happened to the town? Some things moved in. Where are the people here? There's all this storytelling happening in the environments, and it's going to be a treat, I think, for players to go and explore these things and try to figure out what happened.
It is interesting to note, though, that the settlers that we have in the Weird West have only been in the Weird West for around a century or so, something like that. And there have been civilizations in the Weird West before that. And if you explore, you may find the ruins that they left behind. Ancient temples below the desert sands, all kinds of cool stuff. And there's all kinds of folks who have started to use those spaces for their own purposes as well.
Also, when a designer says, if you do this, you might find, that means that you should do that because you'll go find it.
Most important thing is we encourage you to go off the beaten path, to go and explore.
Definitely.
You just don't know what you're going to find in the Weird West.
Definitely. Even if you're just traveling aimlessly from point to point, you might run into really interesting travel encounters that'll show you new folks and new places to explore.
Mm-hmm. We've got, I think, one more town slide. Have we got one more? No, we've got an inventory. Yes.
Inventory.
So I've got inventory to talk about choices. We mentioned and talked about choices before, but each playthrough, as we mentioned, is unique as the game tailors to the story of the player's actions. And I wanted to ask, why should we be wary of the choices that we make?
Ooh, because they're permanent and they affect the world. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that one of the design intentions that we had as a studio was that when you make a choice, we want it to be a real choice. We don't want it to be a fake choice. We don't want it to be a choice that you see the outcome and then you don't really like it and there's a sort of clever way to return things back to normal. No, we present the player with choices throughout each journey that are big ones. They're big choices, and they're going to stay with you throughout your entire playthrough. This is why we were talking earlier about this game really rewarding multiple playthroughs. There's I don't want to say exactly how many, but we have big choices in every journey. If you figure 5 different journeys, some choices in each one, you can sort of do the exponential math. It really becomes quite enormous, the different the different makeups that your Weird West can take. Are you going to ally with a group of people, or are you going to become their enemy? Are you going to reveal someone's secret or keep it safe? Are you going to rescue someone, leave them behind, kill that person who wronged you, or leave them be? We did our best to make sure that with each of these choices, there is a noticeable effect on the world that is going to come back later, and it's going to come back either to help you later, or it might come back to bite you later.
Who lives, who dies, who has a grudge for you.
Yeah, and it's the nice thing about the way that this game is designed is because it's an immersive sim, because things are so dynamic, we're able to create these story moments that to me, when I'm playing it, feel fairly unique, fairly uniquely responsive to what the player's doing. I mean, our vendetta system, for instance, which, if you wrong somebody, you kill someone, but one of their posse members gets away, they start a vendetta on you, they come back later to try to take your life. That vendetta system gets mixed into all sorts of stuff. What happens when you're in a big story moment, there's a big story choice, and you make a choice, who lives, who dies, does someone escape, is that story character going to come back later, what will happen if they do? I mean, that stuff is everywhere
Yes.
in this game. Yeah.
We made a lot of flowcharts.
We lived inside flowcharts for your benefit.
We made a lot of flowcharts. There was a lot of, but what if you do this? But what if that person's already dead? What if you've killed him already?
The number of permutations is truly insane. I mean, in every single story moment, it's like, okay, who's left alive? If this person's left alive, what version of this scene is going to play out? What if that person killed that person? Does that mean we need an option C or an option D here? I mean, sometimes it's like the number of layers deep that we go to provide or to respond to the choices that the player has made throughout is like pretty insane, and we hope that people will feel that.
If you go back to an old location, maybe there's a new faction in charge because of the choices you made. Maybe groups or organizations have lost or gained influence because of what you've done. There's so many possibilities.
Maybe you left a super, really intense enemy of yours alive when maybe you shouldn't have. Maybe they came after your family after, when you've gone on to other journeys and you go back and someone you used to care about is gone and it's all your fault. We love that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Like I said, Erin and I are very cheerful people, but we like imagining dark things.
Please tell us all about your suffering.
Please.
When you play this game. We want to hear all about it.
Oh, and Miss Matroopy is now on screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Miss Matroopy is my favorite NPC.
So
She is.
talk a bit about literature. Tell us more. Sorry, I love it.
Yes. So I wrote many, 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 many lore books for this game.
Many.
I had a lot of fun writing all of them, and I hope you have just as much fun reading them. But Miss Matroopy is one of my favorite authors in the Weird West. She writes etiquette books because even in a world infested with monsters, where you might be cursed or plague-ridden or cast out of your family for being a werewolf at any moment, you still have etiquette. And because we want to have courtesy and manners, we want to be polite, we want to have, fine courtships.
A pigman still needs to know how to set a table. The pigman still got to set the table right. Knife on the right, fork on the left.
Right, exactly. So Miss Matroopy is there to guide you through all of these different problems that you might face. What do you do if you have been cursed and your behavior has been absolutely terrible? How do you go about apologizing and making amends to the people that you hurt while you were cursed? This is important stuff.
It's amazing.
She's very helpful.
For all the folks who are listening who love getting into the lore of a game world, there is so much here for you, and it is truly thanks to Erin and everyone on the team who suggested. There were so many suggestions. What if we had a book of this or a book of this? Erin wrote all that stuff, and it's so strange, weird, hilarious, bizarre, mysterious. There's so much to uncover, and for the people who are interested, I mean, this world has such a deep lore and history that goes back centuries, millennia. I mean, a really long time. And if you dig deep, you're gonna discover some storylines that I think are really well done. Good job, Erin.
Yep. Okay, fun. Thank you.
It's
not just books either.
Yeah, alongside etiquette, what else can we find?
So you might find guidebooks on fighting the monsters out there. So lots of good utility. I was neck deep in our creature weaknesses and strengths wiki on the dev side for a while, writing out lots of pro tips for you guys, lots of stuff that the Dagger and Bones has published to help out. But there's also lore about the regions and what you might find there. But you can also dig through somebody's mailbox and find junk mail.
Oh, please go look through people's mailboxes. Yes. Mwah. Just that's some of the best writing in the whole game right there.
There was some fun writing the junk mail. And people will send letters to each other. If you've done something in the world that people would have heard about, they might write letters to each other talking about it. If something happens to a town, somebody might send a letter to that town saying, "Hey, are you still alive? What happened? I heard that you had some troubles, and you can go investigate."
We have a whole news system as well, which I don't know if that was on your list to talk to, but Erin wrote these incredible news bits too that are hugely responsive to what the player does.
Yes. Every major choice that you make in the game might show up as a news bit. So check the news, and you might see some of your own exploits being featured in the Western Gazette.
And often the news is hilarious, dark, but it's dark humor. This is the balance we're trying to strike here. Yeah, they're so well written. I mean, I still read news bits sometimes that I've never seen, and I'm just Do
you have a favorite that doesn't have spoilers in it?
Oh, honestly, it's just the voice of the news, like Erin's news writer voice from the our version of the 1800s Wild West is just I can't reproduce it because he'd do it so well, but it some of those word choices are just like we had we did a lot of research on Old West slang. That was we have a huge document somewhere with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of words of Old West slang. Putting someone below snakes. You got to use your irons. It just goes on and on and on. We also invented stuff too. I mean, based on, we have a whole religion in the game, which we may or may not get to, but you'll notice when you're playing the game, no one ever says God or heaven or hell or the devil. Nothing like that, because that doesn't exist in the world that we've created. They have their own gods. They have their own, seeing how a religion informs just everyday speech, where we'll say something like "What the hell." Of course, they wouldn't say that in the Weird West because hell doesn't exist. But we have this whole the religion that we have in there has thematic connection to floods, like the flood tide coming and going. So people will say, what in floods are you doing here? Or that's send them across seas instead of send them to hell. That sort of stuff, and that's everywhere. And again, credit to Erin on those things too.
Yeah. Yeah, we spent a lot of time digging into how the people of this world speak to each other and communicate with each other, and what they not just how they talk, but what they want to talk about. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, reflected in the news bits. It's sort of like, okay, what do these people find sensational or interesting that they would want to read about? And it's things like, oh, cursed scarecrows, and there's a cow fell down a sinkhole and they found an ancient ruin underneath it. There's lots of things that the people of the world would find interesting, and I hope you do too.
Yes, please read the news in the Weird West.
Please read the news.
I did want to talk about, only just because when we talked about it before, but the job of the lore master,
So the whole reason that I got into game design in the first place was when Elder Scrolls Online was first coming out. They did a series of videos with Lawrence Schick, who at the time was the Elder Scrolls lore master, and I thought to myself, I want that job. Because his job was literally it's like a film continuity expert. He has control of all the wikis and all of the documentation that keeps track of everything. And he's there to make sure that as the designers are building the new game, it's all staying consistent with the existing stuff. And so there's a lot of curation that goes into it. There's as much curation as there is creation. Because once we've said something is true, we have to make sure that everybody knows that it's true so we don't contradict ourselves later. So lots of spreadsheets, lots of flowcharts, lots of databases, and just being able to keep as much stuff like that in your head as possible is important too. Just so that when you're in a meeting and somebody says, hey, what if we did this? Then you can immediately jump in and say, no, that's not possible because it contradicts this other thing that we've done.
Yeah, and that's, I always find it fun to see how the sausage is made a little bit, which Erin is giving you a little bit of a view into that. And I will also just say, the benefit of all that work that Erin and everyone else does is that when you play the game, hopefully, if we've done our jobs right, there's a feeling of a complete world that is adjacent to ours, but is not our world. I mean, I feel like everyone on the team has done a really good job of making this Weird West exist in sort of like hermetically sealed, weird, bizarre snow globe where everything is self-referential, everything builds on everything else, everything's very tight and interlaced, interconnected. It's this big web of religion mixes with magic, mixes with the history of the land, mixes with the way people speak, like you're saying, what people write letters to each other about, how what sorts of weapons and powers and all of that sort of we hope has come together. And lore masters,
and one of the things that we were really focused on, particularly as I was writing all of these lore books and news bits and letters, was making sure that everything that I wrote was referencing actual game mechanics. So when you find a guidebook about killing, a cave terror or a siren, the weaknesses that it describes are not just lore. That's actually information that you can use as you hunt those creatures.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that was a big
tips
focus.
In there. Don't ignore them. Ignore them to your peril.
It's fun to say creatures because I feel now who's ready to see some monsters? Who's ready to see some creatures? Oh yes. Oh yes. What on earth is this?
I love cave terrors. They're my favorite.
This is a cave terror. So we have another image of the cave terror to get you really going.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that amazing? I mean, I'd only noticed recently that there are maggots there. It's disgusting in the most beautiful way. Was that Cedric who did that art?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Gosh, concept art was amazing.
Yeah.
Cave terrors are so much fun. You rarely fight more than one of them at a time, but you don't really want to.
Yeah, they're terrifying. They dig underground. They sort of are like enormous naked mole rats with huge muscles. There's not a human in there to scale, but I feel like a human would go about up to its hips, probably. Erin, do you think that's true? I mean, they're big.
Quite large.
Burrow underground, throw boulders
Yes.
at you,
Yeah.
sniff you out. They're terrifying.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you how to kill them.
So Cedric, I can't say his surname though. Cedric Prévenet. But if you have a look on our socials, we've linked to him on Instagram and Twitter. You can find his concept.
His work is incredible. Yeah.
He's a mad genius.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the next monster we have is a siren.
Lovely sirens. Yeah.
They don't very much resemble the sirens of Greek myth that you may be familiar with.
Yeah, it was a little. I mean, we were loose with that. I think. What did we?
Yes.
I mean, there is an element of. I won't get into too much detail about exactly how they work, but there is an element of luring people in, though, very much so, and also like using the voice as a weapon of some kind. That is very much there. But these sirens, they're not, dressed in beautiful white diaphanous robes, singing, haunting. No, they run after you. They're scary. They slither around. They're very fast. Run away. You should run away.
But they're not mindless beasts. Not in the slightest. You will have to be very cunning to hunt them.
Yeah, and they're secretive too. I mean, you can see there in that image, there's a woman there. Am I allowed to say? I'm not sure. There's an image there. Look at it. Leave it at that.
Let's go. We don't have a picture for zombies, but there are zombies. But maybe we could talk about ridgebacks. This is a ridgeback.
Mm-hmm. Disgusting. Erin, do you want
to? If you start seeing nests that look like sort of green pulsating insect hives.
Radioactive. Gross.
Yeah. Keep a very cautious eye out because that is ridgeback territory. And if you have an insect phobia of any kind, maybe just leave the map immediately.
Yeah, they're awful. They're undead that have been reanimated by disgusting insects, and their attacks. Really, truly, if you have a problem with insects, just run away. They're terrifying. They're terrifying. You can hear that telltale hum in the distance of the sort of like insects in the hive doing their thing.
If there's fire on the map, kill it with fire. Not even. I don't even remember if that's a real weakness that they have. I just it seems appropriate response. To just
please burn them.
Yeah.
Please light them on fire.
The next, we were going to talk about spirits and ghosts, but I think let's actually just go straight to the next slide, maybe, and show off. This is a wraith.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, wraiths are one of the most powerful enemies in the game. They're really difficult. Angry spirits who have stayed on in the mortal coil, on the mortal plane, to enact their vengeance on the folks who have wronged them. I believe I'm getting that right, Erin. I always check in with our lore master. Am I right?
They're
lore master.
I actually believe they are spirits from the beyond who've entered our world.
Thank you. Yes. There's some really amazing environmental effects that they have when they sort of take over an area. Just watch out for sort of like blue glowing, floating furniture, strange sort of plasma-like. Sorry, that was a doorbell in the background. Don't think I'm gonna get that. On my house, I'm actually house sitting. We don't talk about it. But yeah, they're gorgeous and terrifying. I mean, they can spawn enemies. They teleport. They chase you around. The music that also, can we just say the music, Matt Pearsall, so good and terrifying too.
Yes.
You'll know when a wraith is near, and you will learn to fear that music, like I do.
And like Pigman Joe does.
Yes. Let's go on to. We have a mine crawler. maybe tell us a bit about a minecrawler?
Lucas has a wonderful story about mine crawlers.
Oh, well,
You
just
should
that I
tell
got
one.
told I just get owned by them. They're so hard. Yeah, mine crawlers are, miners who we have a lot of mines in the game. And they're really fun to play in. They're scary. They provide great gameplay wise. They're really fun to play in. But you might find if you're looking around the environment and you start to see some sort of like areas that are charred, smoking, maybe explosions have happened here recently, you'll know that a mine crawler is near, and some miners who have been, doing their thing, trying to get lots of gold and riches, have been infested with spirits, demons of sort, and now they're gonna dig that gold until eternity comes, and also they're gonna throw TNT at you a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a time when Lucas was recording some gameplay for me to test some barks. And he encountered a pack of mine crawlers and was very swiftly exploded in several directions.
I died like 10 times. I flew across the map, just totally, I was owned. I was embarrassed. I don't know if my audio was recorded when I was doing that play session, but
that was the best part, was I could feel how frustrated you were without the audio.
There was a really good reward in that room I was trying to get, and eventually I just let it go. So good enough.
So we have a few more things to show you before we go into the Q&A. So now let's talk about death.
Great.
Death and high stakes. So players are faced with brutal choices and consequences that can't be undone. So, including death. I thought, could you talk to us a bit about the narrative challenges of when you can kill all your characters or kill characters?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that was a design choice since before Erin and I arrived at the studio. I mean, that's sort of what the guys at our studio do. The folks at our studio, the immersive sim mentality is one, like I was saying earlier, where if you give the player the ability to wield a weapon and you say that everyone in the world has health that can be lowered by a weapon, and if that health gets to 0, they die, we're not going to sort of pick and choose when we allow you to do that and when we don't. There are a lot of games that are amazing and great, and they just make different design choices than we do, where, here's a super important story character. If you shoot at them, there's not going to be a response. Nothing's going to happen. And I totally understand why other studios do that, because it is insanely hard to do it this way. Yeah, it's like the way that we've made this game is that, from the very first moment you start the bounty hunter journey and you first encounter an important story character who we have content written for, hours and hours and hours of gameplay, you can just choose to kill them right in the first second of meeting them. And so the question is, well, if we allow the player to do that, how do we keep the story going? If the whole point of a journey is to rescue somebody, and then you find that person and you kill them just because you want to test the limits of what will happen in the story, we really did our best to make sure that there is a story for you there. That if you make a choice where you're going to, as we said, play the trash gremlin route, which, hey, full support. We're giving you a 6-shooter and a cowboy hat. Do what you want to do. This is the whole thing.
Hell yeah.
That we're gonna let you do what you think you should be able to do at any moment, which is, you got that 6-shooter, there's a person, boom, 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 do whatever you want. And so the challenges for the story were myriad. They were difficult. Trying to keep the story going when the player has perhaps just decimated all the story characters. We really went out of our way to make sure that the story still works for players who make those choices. and
A
we
not
hope,
insignificant. A not insignificant chunk of our design meetings consisted of. But what if that character is already dead? There was a lot of that.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think that, we talk about the challenges on the design side, but on the player's side, I think what it's going to feel like to play for people who've never played it before is there's an edge at all times, because in a lot of games, and again, I play these games and love them, they're just designed differently than ours. But in a lot of games, you have a gun and you try to shoot your best friend just to see what happens. Nothing happens. And you're like, okay, in this game, when I try to shoot someone who's important to the story, nothing's going to happen. I accept that. Let's move on. In our game, when you try to do that, that character is going to die, and you're going to say, "Oh shit, did I just mess the story up? What is going to happen?" But we're going to keep going. And so, and this is what Raph talks about all the time, and this is what he's taught me and Erin, is when that option is provided to the player, now in every single moment, the player knows that at any time they could make a choice that would forever alter their story. They can choose to take out their 6-shooter and change the story whenever they want to. And so every time they choose to not do that, that's a choice too. So choosing to kill, choosing to not kill, it's a real choice in this game, and I think is what makes it really, really, really exciting to play.
Yeah. Your 6-shooter, your machete, your TNT, your magic lightning bolts,
werewolf claws,
lots of choices.
Pigman
there.
part.
Pigman,
yeah. Let's talk about Pigman.
Great, good segue.
Pigman.
Pigman.
If we go to the next slide, please. I just love this. Is
so great.
Yes, and this Cedric's artwork is amazing.
I know.
So can you tell what is a Pigman?
Erin,
so Pigman is an unfortunate soul who has been cursed and stitched up into the body of a pig, and they have a lot of interesting story wrapped around them, which you will discover in due time. And and as you know, the second journey is the Pigman journey. You will get to play as a Pigman and learn a little bit more about where they come from and what sort of trials they might face in a world where everyone sees that creature coming and runs screaming for the hills.
Yeah, that
pretty
was
reasonable reaction.
There's a total Frankenstein's monster vibe going. I mean, down to the fact that you're like stitching. There's you're like piecing together this body of a Pigman that you get to play, and we wanted to have the feeling too of what is it like to be a monster, where everywhere you go, people are shunning you and rejecting you. What sort of emotions are there for the player? What sort of story can we tell in that space? And it was really interesting. And I think the bounty hunter journey, we start off in territory that maybe feels a little more familiar to players. You're a cowboy with some guns. It quickly becomes very weird in the bounty hunter journey. Don't get me wrong, it gets real weird. But I think we wanted to really signal to players by the time the second journey starts, and you start as a Pigman, that this game was going to go to very uncharted territory.
Cranking it up to 11.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a character called Pigman Joe.
Pigman Joe! We love Pigman Joe.
I think interesting things about Pigman Joe is that Pigman Joe talks in rhyme. So I wanted to ask, what were the challenges of writing this?
Oh gosh!
Wow!
You start thinking in rhyme after a while. As I was doing my writing for him and Lucas, I'm not sure if I don't want to speak for you as well, but you did most of his dialogue and I wrote a lot of his journals. But you start your brain just sort of gets into that habit of everything rhymes now.
Every thought becomes da 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 da. And that was, it was so. I feel like I can claim this idea as my own only because it is not a brag. It is an apology, because I was thinking about this character, and for some reason I was like, well, what if we won't get into the reasons why he talks in rhyme, but I was like, what if this pig was just like a poet who talks in rhyme? Wouldn't that be fun? And I pitched
He's
to
the
some of the people on the
greatest
team, and they
poet
were
in the
like,
West.
if you want to do, like, it's your funeral, go for it. And I was like, we got plenty of time, no problem. It was hard to do. It was hard to do.
Other lies that writers tell themselves.
But I will say, I don't know about you, for you, Erin, he's one of my absolute favorite characters to write. There's just so much there. It's so unexpected.
Yes.
It's just so unexpected to meet a pigman who looks disgusting and scary, and then he's just spouting these Shakespearean sonnets. It's great fun.
And his journey through the story is one of my favorite just personal arcs for a character in our game, because there's so much that he wants out of life, and you get to help him out with that. And no spoilers, obviously, but he is very near and dear to my heart.
And we're showing off here Pigman Joe's Tour de Weird West. This is the cover for a book that will be coming out, be available on the 11th of January. But the entire book is written by Pigman Joe. So the entire book was written in rhyme. And,
i.e. by Erin.
I dictated for Joe.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. This book is so amazing. I hope that people pick this up, because between Erin's writing and Manu, one of the artists on our teams, his art is just fantastic. It's so funny and fun and strange, weird, bizarre, beautiful. It's just like, oh my gosh. And there's so much great juicy lore in there too that I feel like you won't get anywhere else. Definitely not in this way.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun putting it together. Some of it is lore from the game, but some of it is lore that we wrote specifically for the book. And it's just Pigman Joe's journeys across the West. And all
there he is in the bottom left, by the way.
Yes,
he has his dapper little hat with the feather and the cap.
Yes. he's the prettiest pig in the West.
It's so true.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a self-portrait, because Joe is also an accomplished artist, and
that's
so you
true.
will also find his sketches of the things that he sees and the strange monsters he encounters, and portraits of people that he meets. And all the friends he makes along the way.
I love under this. Is it this self-portrait, which is the prettiest pie in his eye?
He's got a few self-portraits in there, actually.
Yeah.
So it's a different one in there, but yeah.
Pretty as pie, it is I, right?
Yes.
Is the line?
Yep. Yep.
Amazing.
Hey, it rhymes.
We love you.
It does.
We love you.
Yep. And it was fun messing around with all the different poetic structures, because he's got sonnets, he's got haiku, he's got couplets and quatrains and all kinds of fun.
Can I just say, I think it's worth pointing out that this game is Weird West. There are terrors, there are disgusting ridgebacks, there are scary moments, there's grit, there's darkness, there's death, killing, all this stuff. But there's also Shakespearean sonnets, characters that will make you laugh, strange. There's this is a real. I haven't played a game like this before. Not to toot our own horn, but I just think thematically there's just a lot going on here, and I think it's just because everyone's imagination on the team is amazing and beautiful and strange, and I think also because our team was so nimble too. Our team isn't that big, that someone could come up with a great idea, and it's not like it has to go through the filter of a bunch of different departments. It's like you come up with an idea, we talk with Raph about it, Raph gives some great feedback, and then in the next day it's in the game. And so we could do stuff like this without planning and just forging ahead, being like, all right, it's all in rhyme, let's go.
Let's go. Oh,
it's your funeral.
And it was. I'm dead.
So we're just going to show, I think let's quickly just talk about werewolves, I think. Here are werewolves. And if we go to the next slide, this is the key
There
art.
is a whole journey
one
about
more
werewolves.
Slide. Just look at this concept art.
It's beautiful.
Amazing. Cedric.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, you've seen how cool the werewolf transformation effects are in that Journey
Have
trailer.
you all seen this GIF? Or have you seen it in the video? It's amazing.
I
Yeah,
haven't got
beautiful.
the in here, but yeah, should have
Our
had that.
VFX artist, Ewan, I'm imagining, did that. And wow,
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
something else.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a secret to building werewolves that is not known to anyone in the West, but they do have a place in the Weird West, and you will discover that in the fourth journey. I don't know how much more I can say without spoiling
None.
anything.
None. That's the limit. Very
That's
secret.
it. That's all you get.
That's it. That's it. So
That's it.
I think let's stop there, as it's 8:15. We will have a little break. Yes, our favorite slide.
By the way, our outhouses are usable. Please use them.
Friends, please. So, friends, that's time for our lore discussion. We are going to take a quick break. So, run to the outhouse, grab yourself a snack or a drink. We are going to leave you to watch our 2D cinematic trailer that features some of the oddities that we've been talking about. And then when we come back, we're going to be answering some of your questions. So, if you want to pop your questions in the chat, we're going to do our best to answer them. Little reminder, the stream is with the writers, so not the game designers. Our focus will be on the lore and narrative elements of the game. So thank you so much, everybody, and we will be right back. Thank you.
Thank you. See y'all soon.
The West, a land of opportunity, adventure. A place where you can be a hero, a scoundrel, and anything in between. Play your cards right, and coming out here could be the best thing that ever happened to you. If you can survive, that is. 'Cause here's the thing. This ain't quite the Wild West as you know it. There are ancient powers at war with each other. Strange entities lurking in the dead of night with their own rules and their own peculiar motives. No matter which side you take, you better watch yourself. Don't get me wrong, rewards are waiting for those who are brave enough to unveil the mysteries out here in the land of opportunity. But opportunity can come at a pretty high price. Welcome to the Weird West.
Hello, friends. Welcome back. So we are now in the Q&A section of the stream. We're just going to be rolling some B-roll footage for you to enjoy while we're chatting. And the first question I was going to read from the chat was, should I read the book before or after playing the game? Because I wanted to say Pigman Joe's Tour de Weird West is coming via Special Reserves, and I've posted in the chat, but you can go on specialreservegames.com. You can sign up to their newsletter to get news on when it's available. It will be available to buy from January the 11th. But should we read Pigman Joe's Tour de Weird West before or after the game?
The choice is yours. It doesn't spoil any major plot points. It does take a look at some of the circumstances that are leading up to the big journey events in the world before you embark on them. So you might get a little bit of a hint of what's to come going forward. So yes, you can read it before you play the game, and it'll possibly serve as a fun introduction to the game. But you can also save it for afterwards as a little treat. Congratulate yourself for surviving.
That is some A+ stuff in there. Oh my gosh. More experience on it than you could ever possibly need or want, and yet you will love them.
So I have another question. Why does the game start with the bounty hunter?
Well, yeah, we sort of talked about this a little bit earlier. When I'm thinking about the other journey heroes that we have, really the bounty hunter makes the most sense. I mean, I think one of the things that we wanted to do was bring the player into a situation that felt a bit familiar. So, the bounty hunter is a sort of known quantity to many. The sort of main story, the main goal of you as a player in that journey is a sort of well-worn trope that we all know and love. But we subvert it very quickly, and I think the idea was just to give the players a little, give them some bearings, set their feet underneath them a little bit before we start turning up the dial to 11.
I think it's also true that the bounty hunter, of all of the 5 characters, the bounty hunter is the one who is probably most connected to just the ordinary people of the Weird West. Just definitely. Townsfolk, farmers, settlers. These are the people that the bounty hunter knows or who know the bounty hunter. And so it's a great way to get started with how does life work in the Weird West?
Definitely.
I have another one from the chat. Are there any other influences you pulled from story-wise, apart from Western novels and occult stuff?
Occult stuff. All right, we got our Ouija board out for this one.
Yes.
I don't know about you, Erin. I mean, it was a lot of research. It was a lot of I watched a lot of Westerns for sure. I'd never seen Tombstone before. One of our level designers, Monty, was like, "You have to watch this." And the whole like "I'm your Huckleberry" moment. I don't know if y'all have seen. It's just like, wow, God, it's amazing. But yeah, books on some of the tall tales in. If you get a book on tall tales from the Old West, there is some weird stuff in there, really, really weird stuff, which we drew on a little bit, and there's a gold mine there. So movies, books, even some like I looked up old songs that like cowboys sang on the prairie when they were out driving cattle and stuff, and what sorts of things were they singing about, that sort of thing. Erin, do you have any others?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know that it was like a conscious, purposeful thing, but there were definitely a lot of places where I was thinking about Skyrim or Fallout as we were building, like and Dragon Age as well, just like some of the mechanics that they use to give information to the player and let the player know what's going on. So definitely, I was thinking, what would Bethesda do in this situation? What are some solutions that I've seen in other video games? But ultimately, what ended up happening was the main reference point was just the world itself. It took on a life of its own. And I was just much more thinking about, okay, how would the people in this world respond to whatever the impulse is?
Yeah, and one of the cool things I think about working in a genre that already exists is that you get to look at all of your predecessors. Let's look at all the werewolf movies and books, and all the Frankenstein stuff, all of the occult related things, bounty hunters, westerns, all this stuff. We look at all of it. How are werewolves created, and all the myriad fictions there are about werewolves? Okay, and then you sort of you do your research and you say to yourself, okay, which things feel really important to continue? What traditions feel important to continue? And which ones feel like we're going to press the envelope here. We're going to make a change here that is going to set our werewolves apart from other werewolves that exist in the fiction. So
we were looking at. No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's that we wanted to, we wanted to sort of like continue some of these mythoses. We wanted to continue some of these mythos And but then we also wanted to add our flavor to it.
Yeah.
And so hopefully after people play Weird West, there is like a new entry into the canon for what werewolves are all about and how they're created. Or, Pigmen, as far as I know, I'm pretty sure this is a reveal of that mythos. I don't think there are pigmen anywhere else. I think we made it up.
There
sure.
might be
Anybody know?
ghost stories or swamp folk tales.
Maybe so.
About stuff
I
like
think
that.
New Vegas. Are they in New Vegas? No.
Are there?
Are there?
Well,
No. Is that just? I don't know.
We love New Vegas here.
That's true.
And we love
very true.
love Fallout and Fallout 2.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of good stuff. And I think a lot of the stories that we were telling were big, broad, interesting existential questions about humanity. So we were drawing from a lot of that kind of writing as well. What happens with regret? Like, does it sour over time? Can it cause you to do terrible things? What do people do when they're desperate? That sort of
Greed.
thing.
How does greed sink in?
Yes.
Sink into you? What happens when
Greed
you
was a big theme. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been told Minecraft has pigmen in the chat.
Oh my gosh! Thank you, chat. Clearly, sadly, none of us are playing enough Minecraft.
Need to play more Minecraft.
It shows clearly. Sorry.
So, if we have any Minecraft modders here, I'm going to need you to put Weird West style pigmen into Minecraft.
Please.
Yes.
Please.
Just really blow somebody's mind with that one. Wonderful.
So I had a question. Any favorite bugs you're allowed to say?
Yes.
Favorite bugs, Erin? You wanna?
Yes. We found at one point when Lucas was recording video for me, I was going through the video and I noticed that at one point, while a couple of characters are having a conversation, this werewolf just comes like surfing past the screen. And he's like standing on his rifle in wolf form, just fully werewolfed out, surfing past me.
Surfing that rifle.
What is he doing?
You gotta surf that rifle.
Nobody comments on it. Nobody, like a couple of guys like, hey Joe, how's it going? It
was great.
Just
Surfing werewolf.
And I continue to watch. I continue to watch the conversation that I was looking at, and then a few minutes later, he just comes surfing right on back. It was a double whammy. It got me.
It's so good. That probably is my favorite one too. Although I was a big fan of the stage of development when we had a lot of stackable horses. That was pretty fun. You walk into a town and it's just like there are 3 horses standing on top of each other. And you're like, yeah,
that was great.
They're really a team.
That was great. At one point, I spooked a deer, and instead of escaping the map, it got stuck on a bush and just started bouncing in a circle. And just was circle bouncing. Yeah, just around the bush. Just like bounding in circles.
Some good stuff.
Should have kept that in.
Don't worry, we fixed those.
Yeah.
We fixed it. We fixed it.
And then there's Joe's popcorn chicken bug that he tweeted about.
That's right.
Yes.
The chicken ran into a fire and turned into some like tasty KFC drumsticks.
No, the chicken ran into a fire. He startled the chicken. It ran through a fire. The chicken caught fire, and then the chicken bolted into a cornfield and set the cornfield on fire, which generated enough popcorn to entirely crash the editor.
That is the best of all time. This is what happens when you work with these like immersive sim systems. It's like it's gonna proliferate. It's gonna do what it does. I'm excited to see what people find, because when the public gets the game and they start playing, they're gonna find all sorts of cool, amazing things that our systems do that we didn't even know about. So.
Right. There's just so many little nooks and crannies in this game that it would have been impossible to find everything. So y'all are gonna find some cool shit. Please tell us all about it.
Yeah, I was going to say later, but I think I'll share it now in the chat. But you can sign up. Devolver are running a beta, so you can sign up to the beta squad if you are interested. So
Beta squad.
I'll pop the link in the chat, and you can go to Devolver's Twitter or our Twitter, and there's more information there on the beta. So yeah, I'm excited to see the combinations and how people play. It's going to be really interesting. I was going to ask, what's your favorite character, location, or creature in Weird West?
I know it's Pigman Joe, Lucas.
Well, okay, so we've talked up Pigman Joe a lot, and he is top tier for me, but there's actually one other character who I don't think I can name, but who makes a very, very, very strange request of the player, who has a manner of speaking all his own, who is just... You're gonna love this character. We can't talk. I can't reveal his identity, but he has to do something real fucking weird. Sorry, I don't know if I can curse. My apologies. It's real weird.
He was.
You know who I'm talking about, Erin?
I do know who you're talking about. He was fun to write.
Oof, that was
his dialogue was so fun. And there's another character that I also can't talk about, but she's sort of been part of the game's story from the beginning. And hers, you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Her story is a very painful one, I think.
Yeah, that's it was a cool thing working with these 5 journeys, seeing how there are certain characters who matter a lot in the context of, say, the bounty hunter journey, and then when you move on to other journeys, maybe you don't interact with them as much, but some of the characters sort of persist across all 5 journeys, and you get to develop a relationship with them over the course of your whole playthrough, and seeing how these stories develop over the across the 5 different players who you play as, it's really interesting, and also like getting to interact with these characters, playing as different heroes, I think is some really it's weird, which is what we want. It's Weird West.
We want weird.
It's weird and good.
There's so much humor to these characters, but also just like there is that element of regret and sorrow and grief and pain, and it makes the humor better, I think. It's just that contrast is really delicious.
Yeah.
You need that. We had one. Any tips you can give new players?
Ooh.
Oh.
Sure.
Try the stealth route before you go in guns blazing.
Quick save often. Lots of quick saving.
Quick save often.
Quick save is your friends. You can run in guns blazing. Just make sure you quick save first.
I was testing once, and I had not turned on God mode because I was like, oh, I don't need mode. Hubris. And I thought I was doing a wonderful job. I had sort of stealthed around the outside of an outlaw encampment and picked off a few of them. And I'm like, oh, I can take these guys. So I started shooting. And then suddenly there were many, many more outlaws suddenly all around me, and I was very quickly very full of bullets. And I was like, okay, stick with stealth for now.
This game offers it's a chewy challenge. Some of the levels are, they're going to take a little bit of grit to get through them, which I appreciate. And I will say, use those abilities. Those abilities are pretty great and amazing. And sometimes you're really going to need to leverage some of those to make it out alive, as they say. So I would say become familiar with them.
There's a bit actually in this B-roll that we've looped through a couple of times, I think, where you as the bounty hunter, you see her going around a corner, like dodging around a corner and dropping her proximity mine behind her as she dodges. And then the fellow coming after her has a very spicy surprise when he comes around that corner.
Also, you're sort of like Max Payne bullet time dodge.
Yes.
That's
very
great.
Handy.
Become very familiar with that too.
If you just need an extra second to pause and aim, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, and I shared a clip from this video the other day with the Molotov cocktail, which I said, throw a Molotov cocktail for creative problem solving.
Problem solving.
Yeah, use the environment. I mean, really, our fires propagate in ways that you would expect. They will explode things. They will spread. They'll catch people on fire.
Joe worked so hard on the fire systems, how they spread, how they can be doused. Like if it starts raining, your fire's going to go out. You can knock over a barrel to put out a fire. But if there's foliage nearby, you can set that on fire and have a very exciting time. And
creative. I mean,
you can
yeah.
shoot the barrel as well, and then the water will come out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And same with like water towers, so you can like shoot the water tower. And then
It's
really
pretty cool. I know.
Yep.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, there are so many ways to solve a given location. You know, like the one that we're seeing up here during the bounty hunter journey. You could take a super stealthy approach. You could climb across the rooftops. You could shoot barrels from the roofs. You could stealth in and take everyone out silently from behind. You could try to find alternate routes to go into a place. I mean, there's really a lot.
You can hide by the outhouse and wait for somebody who needs to come use it. Catch them by surprise.
That is a dirty kill, but it's worth just the same in the end.
Hey, whatever it takes to survive.
That's right.
By any means necessary. I've got a nice, fun, meaty question if we feel like it. But we got asked. I'm curious about dialogue choices and how they will impact reputation and relationship with game world and your other characters.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to. Well, it's an interesting thing. So, you know, Erin and I are the only writers on the project, and this is a big game. It's an RPG. There's a lot of dialogue in there. We wrote. Well, we weren't the only writers. Sorry, we had an amazing writer as well, Elizabeth, who did work for us as well and did a lot of work on one of our journeys. A lot, and she did great work. But you know, there's always a balance of like we want to be able to have a bazillion choices in every moment. How many can you really do? Well, we really tried to err. We tried to err on the side of if we're going to have a choice, we want it to be big and we want it to matter. We also have some smaller moments. When people play the bounty hunter journey, there's a moment really early on where you get to make some choices through the dialogue that are really fun and tasty. It's about how you extract information from someone, and based on what you choose there might be repercussions later on. And so we really did our best to make sure that in the dialogue, when we present you with a choice, it's interesting or helps you role play the type of character, the type of player that you want to be. And for our big choices, some of it, actually a lot of which happen during dialogue. I mean, the whole Weird West, the whole world will be irrevocably changed based on some of the choices you make when you're having conversations with people.
Yeah, absolutely. There isn't really a relationship system so much. It's like there's not a system whereby, you know, a number goes up when you pick the thing that they like. It's we tried very hard to be much more organic and human about it. So there will definitely be moments, you know, when you have the opportunity to just be really cruel to someone. And you can choose to be really cruel to them and they'll react to you accordingly.
Yeah.
And there are other places. Right. There's just so many different places where you can do or say so many different things, and the NPCs in the game will react according to how you've treated them.
Yeah, and I would also say too, we have a lot of big choices that happen in the dialogue, but like Erin's saying, it's also about, you know, it is an action RPG, and so a lot of it is about what choices are you making in the course of the game, action-wise. Who are you saving? Who are you not saving? Who are you killing? Who are you not killing? Yeah. What sort of repercussions does that have? Because there are a lot there as well.
Right. If your companion is wounded, do you leave them to die? If you find someone in a cage, do you free them, or do you leave them there, or do you rob them and kill them? You know, how do you treat the people around you? Yeah. Yep. And each NPC will remember what you've done to them and what crimes you've committed, or if you've done kind things for them. If you've helped them out, they'll remember that too. And so each NPC has a little bit of memory that they use to decide how they're going to treat you in the future.
Yeah.
And I have one more quite big question if we feel like it. What was challenging in changing known monsters in myth into the Weird West setting and devising a story narrative around them?
That is a good meaty question.
That is a big meaty one.
Mhm. Let me see.
Do you have anything that comes to mind, Erin? I'm happy to take a stab at it too.
I would say the big glaring one there is the sirens for sure. Like we kept the name and we sort of loosely kept, the idea of the sonic ability and this connection to water a bit, but we sort of went off the rails with it pretty quickly. And even by the time that Lucas and I had joined the team, the designers and the AI folks, Barut and all of them had pretty well and thoroughly just moved on from the original concept. And I would say probably the challenge wasn't so much to recreate the myths, but to differentiate them. And just because this world started off, it starts off just as a trope when you first think about, I want to build a Weird West game. It's like, it's the Wild West with supernatural elements. But the more you think about it and the more you extrapolate from each decision you make, the more unique the game world is. Mm-hmm. And you start building creatures that are unique and specific to the world you're in.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about the werewolves, and I'm thinking about the Oneirus that we have, who we pictured earlier as one of the 5 heroes. That you start with something like, okay, we want to have werewolves in the game. That'd be really fun to play as. People love werewolves. What is the story going to be around werewolves? It's fun to play one, but why do they exist? How are they created? What are they doing? What's their end goal? What challenges are they facing? What is the super sticky, tasty, meaty thing that is rocking their world right now that the player needs to solve? And with the Oneirus 2, we, in one of the trailers, it says future seers. We have, people who see the future. And what does it mean to see the future? Sure, that's something that exists. I don't know that I would associate that necessarily with the Weird West genre, but certainly magic in general is. But if you can see the future, what does that mean for your for that society of magic users? What do they use future seeing for? And so when you start to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the layers of okay, we're going to take werewolves, but let's complicate it a little bit with who their adversaries are, what they're trying to do. Are they attacking someone? Are they persecuted? What? And then see how that becomes a story. And then I think how the story that develops from that then sometimes would bubble back up and influence some of the mythos, where it's like, well, if this is the story
together.
Yeah. It's like, if this is the story that's happening, well, then I think we need to alter the way that werewolves work in our world a little bit to sort of fit the story that we're trying to tell. And so hopefully it ends up feeling pretty organic. There's this sort of back and forth, starting here, telling the story, having the story inform how we sort of finagle and change the mythos to fit our designs.
Right.
Yeah.
And how do the rules that these creatures follow fit into our the themes that we're trying to talk about in our narrative? How does it fit, the overall dynamic of the game? So it's a lot of
and I feel like our werewolves are and I think in the end, because it feels so informed by story, you end up with werewolves that feel, to me, pretty unique. There are recognizable elements for sure, but the story is not one that's been told before. This is a unique story in the werewolf world, and for magic users, this is a unique story in the world of magic users and bounty hunters and all that stuff. So hopefully we did it justice.
It's exciting. We are going to wrap up there now, friends. So wow, I just want to say thank you so much, Erin and Lucas, for your time today. It's been really fun. I hope you all enjoyed, friends.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry if we didn't get to answer your question, but I hope we can do another stream maybe in the new year, and we can discuss more of the mysteries of the Weird West. So don't forget.
And you'll find many of those answers as you play the game.
Yes. You must unveil the mysteries while you play. So don't forget, you can wishlist pre-order Weird West by going to weirdwest.com. It's coming to PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One on January the 11th, 2022. If you want to know more about Pigman Joe's Tour de Weird West book, coming to you by Special Reserves, and you can check out the physical copies too if you go to specialreservegames.com. And if you go to /about/SRG, you can sign up to their newsletter to get more information about that. Also, there is a Weird West test beta that you can sign up to if you go to Devolver to check out the beta squadron. And don't miss, Devolver have a holiday special that they're airing from 4:20 Pacific time tomorrow on Twitch Gaming. So that's tomorrow. Check that out. Follow us at Wolfeye Games on Twitter, Wolfeye Studios on Instagram. And I just want to say again, Erin, Lucas, thank you so much. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Alex. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you, Erin.
So we are now going to leave you to watch episode 1 of Road to Weird West, a series of deep dives, and Raph, the creative director, is going to tell you more about how the game feels. So thank you so much, friends, and see you next time. Stay weird. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, this is Rafael Colantonio, creative director of Weird West. This is the first entry in a series of deeper looks into Weird West, our mix of action, RPG, and immersive sim here at Wolfeye Studios. For this episode, we want you to get a sense of how the game feels and how the immersive sim elements come into play. You start the first of 5 journeys as bounty hunter Jane Bell. Your son was killed, your spouse was abducted, and you're out to find out who did this and set things right. But there are 4 more journeys in this tale of the Weird West. 5 unique characters, all of which intersect at some point. One of our goals with Weird West is for everything that seems interactive to actually be interactive. So let's have a look around and interact with the world. We can move things, search anything, take items from inventories, or place items from your inventory into the world, carry bodies, bury bodies, kick things, set things on fire, and more. If you see something that seems possible, chances are it is possible, and it feeds into the simulation to create gameplay opportunities. While the game's moment to moment is about exploration and action, the game structure is very much that of an RPG. You can travel anywhere thanks to the travel map and select where you want to go next, including in areas that you haven't discovered yet. Along the way, you might run into a few surprises or stumble across new locations to explore. Players will make their way through frontier towns, mining outposts, hidden oases, and more. The West holds an abundance of quests to tackle, locations to explore, characters to talk to. There's so many ways for the game to respond to your actions. You can follow directions or go rogue and unveil the ever-thickening mystery of the Weird Wests on your own terms. Either way, you're looking at a good 40 hours of gameplay split between 5 characters that are tied together in ways that will be revealed at the end. Hope you enjoyed this video. There is more to come soon. And before I forget, Weird West launches January 11th on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. We hope you are as excited to experience what we've created as we were to make it.